The recent Black Lives Matter protests have motivated a group of local students to stand against what they say amounts to racism at their school. Matriculants from Bishop's Diocesan College in Cape Town say they've had enough of institutionalized racism at the school. Since Friday's demonstration, pupils around the country have also raised concerns on social media about issues of inequality.
At Bishops, we have committed ourselves to continue a journey of transformation, a journey of change, and a journey to make us relevant in the South African context in which we live. We've taken that commitment not only by talking to the hearts and minds of the people that are within the organization, the parents, the boys, and the staff in particular, but also through the development of policy and practice that hopefully will allow all boys to feel part of the place, to feel that they are celebrated for who they are, they're seen for who they are, and people understand who they are, and they're proud to be united as different people within this common space that is called Bishops. We've developed a number of policies that support this, including a diversity and transformation policy that was translated into the 3 official languages of the Western Cape as an indication of our commitment to the languages of the Western Cape and to language as a very important part of belonging. Part of that as well has meant a recommitment of the school. We are an English medium school, but we also offer Afrikaans and isiXhosa as the 2 languages of the Western Cape. And we will be expanding the influence of these 2 languages throughout the school, starting at grade N and going all the way through until grade 9, where the boys will take all 3 languages. And then they get to choose after that which of the 2 languages, English and which other language they wish to take. Not only are we committed to language as a means of understanding difference and celebrating difference of people, but we're also committed to making sure that this is reflected in the libraries and what our libraries and resource centers look like. We're committed to see what this looks like in terms of the spaces that we have around the school, as to what one sees when you walk into the space, whether you see something that looks like a 21st century South African school, or whether you see something that looks a little bit, that is looking backwards into the past. And we are trying to be an organization that is looking forward. So apart from the obvious differences that exist in our history as South Africans, where race was such a major issue of difference for so many years, that is obviously an area that we focus very strongly on. But we also focus on difference in religious beliefs. We focus on difference in economic status, for example. And we also support people who are different, people who are of different sexual orientation, people who are of different economic backgrounds, people who are from different social strata. And that is something that we believe that each person, no matter where they come from and no matter who they are human beings and fellow human beings in this space that is called Bishops. We've done a number of things to try and acknowledge this and to try and make people feel that they belong. We have established a number of support groups for various people. We've established support groups for our own staff. We've established support groups for our boys, and spaces where people can talk and can speak freely about difference and can raise issues that are of concern for them. One of the things that we have done, for example, to enable our support staff to educate their children is by increasing the financial contribution that the school makes towards the children of support staff, to allow them to send their children to better schools where their children can receive a better education. We've done a number of other programs as well, mostly though around talking and understanding each other and understanding what our viewpoints are that may be different from the person to whom you're talking to, but at least getting an understanding and a mutual respect for each other and what we believe in.
I find it's quite tragic that 3 decades, almost 3 decades into South Africa's democracy and the new South Africa, that as a South African community and to an extent the Bishops community is polarized still by racism, bigotry and just general indifference. Thankfully, we are blessed with a community of people at Bishops that is comprised of young learners and most pertinently the matriculants, who've chosen courageously to take a stand against racism, bigotry and indifference. We've also got an engaged group of parents who have been vocal and vociferous about what they'd like to see evolve within the school community. And we've got a visionary group of teachers and faculty who constantly espouse the vision of a better, more inclusive community at Bishops. This together conspires towards creating a dynamic for a lot more active engagement. Despite the fact that we've got a long way to go to build this inclusive society and community, we've got a couple of milestones that's worth talking about and worth celebrating. I think the first milestone is the creation of a Transformation and Diversity Committee as established by the Council. The committee is made up of a diverse group of parents and is actively engaged in the debates around how we create a more inclusive and empathetic society and community at Bishops. The second milestone worth celebrating is the publishing of a Transformation and Diversity Charter that takes a stand against racism and promotes the creation of an environment free of racism, free of bigotry and free of prejudice, and creating the creation of a community that celebrates excellence in education but also promotes the socialization of young men so that they can become active ambassadors and warriors for change, not only within the campus community, but in the external environment.
We are intending creating platforms where students and staff can feel like they can give input, they'll be heard and taken up to the higher powers in the school, and so that things and change can be made from the perspective of the students and students. Whether this be through an anonymous tip box or a forum box or a meeting per term where boys and students can feel like they can simply give input or have questions that be answered by people who may know the answer to it. It's through these forums and through our intention to make more forums available, such as tip boxes and such as committees that can discuss the issues within the school, that we'd like to implement change and transformational change through this. Using forums such as the leadership assemblies or using forums such as even cheerleading, we'd like to use these forums where the boys are connected and where the boys gather together to educate people on transformation and what this really means and how this is important to the school and why it is important. Because it is, and it's important that we make sure that everyone feels that they're on the same page and on the same boat and that they support the transformation policy. In line with the transformation policy, we'd like to make sure that already the young ones, so that means the grade 8s and the junior grades, coming to Bishops, understand what we value as a matric group. So that means shutting down things that we don't agree with, such as racist comments or sexist comments or homophobic comments, and making sure that the grade 8s know this already from when they join the school is critically important, because we remember when we were mentees ourselves, and the role that mentors have to mentees is something that can't be ignored. It's a big role, and we would really like to use this as a positive experience to make sure that grade 8s and 9s know what is valued at the school, and so that they can bring these values to their mentees when they're in matric.
Last year I was fortunate to be part of the Executive Development Program at UCT's Graduate School of Business, and one of the modules we did was digital transformation. And what stuck with me was one of the faculty members, Sharon McPherson, who said in response to a question, transformed individuals transform institutions. This stuck with me, it resonated with me, because I'm a sincere believer that in order to change anything, you must get involved or you must put your hand up. And this is why I'm involved with Bishops. As a former scholarship recipient, we got together and decided that we would work with and within Bishops to effect change. We as a committee made up of council members, parents, old boys, look at what the executive does, and we stress tested by bringing our own experiences, by looking at ways in which, other schools are doing things, other institutions are doing things. And we try to ensure that the school is moving in the right direction. One must remember that we're here today because of natural progression of life. Bishops was founded in 1849. However, it's 2022 now, and we need to respond to the world's challenges. If Bishops prides itself on inspiring and creating future leaders of society, if our boys are to take up space in society and lead in commerce, politics, sport and the arts, then they need to understand the complexities of the world today and tomorrow. If transformation plays a big part of that, and change plays a big part of that. So as the Transformation Committee of Council, we ensure that there are proper policies in place that address and enable the school to be able to address transformation. One of those policies is a diversity and inclusion policy. The other policy linked to that is something like the admissions policy. One will understand in traditional schools like this, you would have had points in the admissions policy about which were not as inclusive as we would have liked. We've worked very hard with the principal, and I'm proud that the principal has attacked this head on to remove those obstacles which can be exclusionary, and we're proud of that. Perhaps what we could have done, what we did wrong historically as a school, as a collective, was the non-teaching staff and teaching staff didn't have the same facilities where they eat. So ground staff and non-teaching staff were eating some outside of the tuck shop and things. And this was something that the boys picked up. And the boys brought it to the attention of the school leadership. And I'm proud to say it's something that we've addressed, because now you'll find ground staff and teaching staff, their counterparts, are eating in the same place, which might sound like a small thing, but these are the small incremental changes that you make in an institution like this that transform the institution, where people feel they're not excluded, but there's inclusion, and there's also, equal opportunities anywhere. So as much as our premise is to ensure this is a great place for the boys, which is the primary one, we also need to ensure that the staff, all of the staff, are well looked after, and that's a big thing in the Transformation Committee.
Everyone should feel like they belong at Bishops, because Bishops is a school for everyone that works there or studies there. And whether this be through the transformation policy or through making everyone feel that their voice is heard, irrespective of their background, sex, gender, or socioeconomic status, it's through these things that we really need to make everyone feel they belong to the school and feel that they have a voice within the school.
Arguably, like with many institutions in South Africa, we have a long way to go. With the publishing of the Charter, our immediate task now remains to galvanize the entire Bishops community around this vision. In my short time as a parent at Bishops, I've come to recognize the progressive core that lies at the heart of Bishops. And I'm committed as a parent to be part of the journey, but I'm equally optimistic about the fact that more and more people are galvanizing around this common vision and will create not only a place of excellence in terms of learning, but a place where our young men will be socialized to become active ambassadors for positive change in the society, whichever society they find themselves in the future.
One of the difficult things that this pandemic has thrust upon us has been the question of relations and relationships, because schools are places of relationship, and they're relationships between boys, relationships, staff, parents, this interrelational aspect of schooling, and COVID has not allowed that to happen, which means that many of the conversations that we should have been having and could have been having around diversity and difference have not been able to be had. And we are hoping that with the easing of restrictions, we are able to start having these necessary conversations as a school community and as a full school community to enable us to understand better and not work in isolation with each other, but to work together towards a better Bishops in a better South Africa.